On today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to replace the tank and handle assembly on a Stihl MS 311 chainsaw. The reason why I'm replacing this assembly is because the fuel tank was leaking, and as you know, the fuel tank is actually glued onto the handle assembly, so the only way to fix it is really just replace the whole thing. Some guys will try to epoxy the seals and see if they reseal, but I just like to replace the whole thing and know that it's not going to leak and have problems down the road. The tank assembly for this saw is rather pricey. It's over $160, so just consider that versus the value of your unit at the end of the day, if it's worth fixing, or if you just want to slap some epoxy on there and see if you can make it go. First thing I'm going to do is empty any remaining gas that's in the gas tank. I'm going to start by removing the screws that hold on the top cover shroud. This is going to give me full access to the handle assembly as well as the screw that holds on the AV spring right above the tank. Now I'm going to remove the screw that holds on the AV spring so I can start removing the handle assembly. Next, I'm going to remove the two screws on the front of the case that hold on the bottom of the handle assembly. There is one screw that holds on the AV spring to the top of the cylinder on the engine assembly. There's two screws at the bottom of the handle assembly on the clutch side that you need to remove also. The last screw is going to be found on the chain catch, which holds on the AV spring on the front of the handle assembly. Now I'm going to start removing the handle. There's a push pin in here. You got to use a punch to get it out, and then you can take off the handle assembly where the throttle trigger is. To take this plastic piece off, you're going to have to pry on the back side in that hole there. There's a little snap that goes into place to release that. Go ahead and take the lock out, the spring, and the throttle trigger out and set them aside, and we'll clean them off and put them back on the new assembly. The last thing holding this handle assembly and fuel tank on is going to be the fuel line. Make sure to gently pry that off of the little nipple on the end there. Here's a look at the new tank assembly. Part number is going to be 1140-350-0826. This is going to include the fuel tank, the handle assembly, fuel filter, as well as a cap. There are going to be a couple things that you're going to have to take off the old assembly, so don't throw it away until you make sure you have everything. The two pieces that you're going to need to save from your old unit are the AV spring, as well as this 90-degree fitting for the fuel line. When you go ahead and install this 90-degree, don't put it in all the way. It just makes it easier when you're trying to hook the fuel line back up to be able to work around those little plastic molding pieces where it fits in. The AV spring, go ahead and put that on there. It'll fit perfectly when you go install the assembly. Now you can start reinstalling the assembly. I'm starting with the bottom here. It just makes sense to go to the bottom, get it around the AV spring, secure those two screws on the front there, and then build out from there. Next, I'm going to install the chain catch with the screw that holds the AV spring into place. Before you go any farther, make sure you're reinstalling the fuel line. This can be a little tricky once you start getting the assembly back into place. There's not a lot of room to work with there. I just take a pair of needle nose pliers and then slowly work that fuel line onto the nipple. After you get the fuel line installed, go ahead and put the other screws that hold the handle assembly into place. Now install the AV screw into place. The last screw to install is going to be the AV spring to the top of the engine. The last thing I'm going to do is install the throttle trigger. Here I'm pulling out the linkage so that way I can get the trigger into place. Once I get the throttle trigger in place and hooked up to the linkage, I'm going to install the set pin. Get everything lined up and then go ahead and lightly hit it with a hammer to set it into place. The last thing I have to do is install the lockout as well as the spring, and then I'm going to put the cover on. Just slide the grooves in the top and then snap it into place. The final thing that you need to do is install the new fuel filter and then put the cap on your fuel tank. Well, overall, this isn't a terrible repair. If you know what you're doing, it takes about 15 minutes. Otherwise, if you haven't done these before, it could take up to a half an hour. Biggest thing is just making sure that you keep track of your hardware. I use these magnetic containers so that way I don't lose anything. There's about 6 screws that you need to take out, removing the handle assembly so that way you can access the tank and the fuel line. When you put the saw back together, make sure that you guys connect the fuel line. It's easy to forget that when you're trying to put the tank on there and then screw the handle back into place. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you guys did like the video, make sure you guys like down below and subscribe to our channel. If you guys have any questions or comments on the video, make sure you guys leave them below as well.